here. It's great to be back and great to be with you. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone on Friday.
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
That's right, my friends. Open Line Friday, meaning when we go to the phones, talk about whatever you want. I really intended to get the phones in the first hour. I get off on these things and I got to finish my point. I got to make sure that I'm understood, so it took a little more time than I figured. In fact, I got a couple of good emails. I checked them during the break. Rush, what are you blaming all this on Trump for? I'm not blaming anything on Trump. One other question was, why are you saying Trump has to do this? That's a better question. Because let me tell you, folks, what's going to happen here. If the Republican Party loses the Senate, who do you think is going to get blamed for it? Donald Trump. The Democrats are going to blame him, and they're going to have catcalls and laughter, and they're going to have all these funny little stories about how his influence is gone, how he probably never had any. He was just a cult leader. I mean, you all know what's coming if we lose the Senate. They're going to take the occasion of that loss to totally dump on Trump and blame him for it. And when Trump gets blamed for it, guess what else gets blamed for it? The Trump agenda, MAGA. And this will be their effort to do away with it once and for all. Now, that is unacceptable because the MAGA agenda is the only thing that's seen the Republican Party have any chance at dominant success. I mean, look at 3 Supreme Court justices. Look at Trump's economic agenda before the COVID-19 virus hit. My God, folks, we were on such a roll as a country. It was unprecedented in most of our lifetimes. The change in the Supreme Court was just profound. And you look at these never-Trumpers, that's exactly why they claimed that they wanted to be conservative, and now Trump did it. They can't even support that. But that was a major, and winning the fight for Amy Coney Barrett to be put on the court at the time she was. Now, you can sit there, not you, I know you all get it. But believe me, the Democrats have to destroy everybody on our side who is successful, be they television personalities, be they dominant radio media figures, be they elected Republicans, whoever they are, they have to be destroyed. They're never argued with or debated, none of that. They're just destroyed. Right now, the Democrats fear MAGA. MAGA united the Republican Party to the point of 70 million plus votes. They didn't win this election without the fraud, and everybody knows it. 70 million. Well, Trump got more votes in this election than he did in 2016. He built his base. The Republican Party showed 95% support for Donald Trump. That's the kind of stuff that scares the living daylights out of Democrats and communists and the opposition, and they have to deal with it. And the best way they can think to deal with it is to hope that this Georgia runoff results in 2 Republicans losing, and they can blame Trump for it. Blame the MAGA agenda. They can say, you know what? The MAGA agenda never did amount to anything, and this proves it. The minute Trump's out of the picture, look at what happens to the Republican Party. They get their senses about. That's what'll be said. The minute Trump's out of the picture, the minute Trump loses the presidency, then the Republican Party feels free to go back and be who they really are. And they'll get praised for losing day in and day out. Remember the Republican objective in the old days, lose with honor. Senator Hugh Scott, you remember him, the senator from Pennsylvania, Hugh Scott, smoked a pipe out there? And Bob Michael, lose with honor. That's how you kept your place at the cocktail parties and the receptions. I'm not kidding. So I can tell you right now that all of this I have just predicted is going to happen. They would love nothing more than to be able to blame the MAGA agenda for the Trump loss in the White House, now the Trump loss in Georgia. Oh, yeah. That, and then in their minds, in their view, they would be doing away with the scariest opposition they have ever had. Believe me, folks, take away the personal dislike for Trump, and you're left with one thing. These Democrats are scared to death of Make America Great Again. They're scared to death of Put America First again. They're scared to death of Keep America Great Again. They are scared to death of the Constitution becoming the primary objective, freedom for the individual in this country. If they can get rid of those things, if they can disparage those things, then they will do it at the drop of a hat. So this is why I say that it's incumbent on Trump to do everything he can to help these two win that runoff in Georgia. I understand some of the objections, which I'll go through here in just a second, but Trump is the guy who has to do it, because if he goes out, if he does rallies, if he does appearances, if he shows up, encourages people to vote, and they win, he gets the credit. MAGA is not dead. MAGA cannot be impugned. Oh, they'll try, but they won't succeed. So that's why the pressure is on him. Folks, it's always on the guy at the top. The guy at the top may have surrogates and may have people that do grunt work for him. When it comes down to things that really, really matter, the guy at the top has to do them. I mean, it's the name of the game. And the guy at the top, he sought the position. He loves the position. He loves the pressure being on him. He loves being responsible. I'm just saying he's going to have to be here, because that's what's the thing. Now, here's the thing. As best I have been able to determine, with mainstream Republicans and Lynn Wood and this whole notion of Lynn Wood encouraging Republicans not to vote for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. As I understand it, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong when we go to the phones. As I understand it, Lynn Wood is suggesting that nobody vote for Loeffler or Perdue in the Senate runoffs unless Governor Kemp fixes the rigged election process and gets rid of Dominion machines. As I understand it, this is Lynn Wood's point, that it's not going to be a fair election. We've already seen the elections in Georgia have just been peppered with fraud everywhere. Why would we engage in the same kind of behavior? And he's using whatever leverage he has to make this change and to get Republicans in gear on it. And of course, the one thing to ask here, why bother to vote if you've got suitcases of ballots out there somewhere? If they did it on November 3rd, you think they don't have some ballots in reserve for these runoffs? You think they can't see straight to get John Ossoff, the pajama boy, in the Senate? You know damn well if they cheated on November 3rd, they'll cheat in January. There's no question. They've probably got the mechanisms in place. We know they do. And so you could say that Republicans have learned absolutely nothing in the last 4 years in terms of seeing the Democrats for who they are and what they are. At least that's a popular take on the situation. Kill the messenger. Is that how you understand it, Mr. Snerdley? That it's about the Dominion machines. He's not actually advocating don't vote. He wants the governor to fix the fraud. I'll tell you what. Let's get started on the phones. Let's just do it right now, so that I can get back in keeping with my promise. Let's start Spring, Texas, with Tom. Tom, I'm glad you waited. You're up first today on Open Line Friday. Hi.
It's good to hear your voice, Rush. May God bless you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
What my point is with the challenges by Trump's legal team, and then after he gave that speech on YouTube the other day, all we're hearing from the media is there's no evidence of fraud. There's no baseless claims, no evidence. But there was never any evidence of any kind of wrongdoing in the Russia hoax, but we heard that 24/7
Exactly.
for over 3.5 years. There was never any wrongdoing in the Ukraine hoax, but they gave Pelosi enough cover by running that story so she could do an impeachment. And what about that seriousness of the charge that they always say demands the investigation? The seriousness of the charge.
Right. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Great job of pointing it out. Total hypocrites. But I mean, there's nothing new about that. You're absolutely right about everything that you've said. Never any, there was not a shred of evidence in the coup because it was all made up. Totally, never any evidence. There shouldn't even been an investigation because nothing happened. Same thing in Ukraine. They totally made that up to impeach Trump. And your point about the nature of the evidence is not what matters, it's the seriousness of the charge. No, that's out the window when Republicans are asking questions. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, and I just enjoy hearing you talk, Rush. You are the voice of truth and light, and it's just a pleasure. It's just a pleasure to hear you.
Well, thank you. It is for me too, if I may be so honest. But look, it's still a good point. The question, as always, is what to do about it. And that just opens up the lines of frustration again, because we've had 3.5 years of outright lies about things that didn't happen, that did delay and thwart the Trump agenda, despite how much he got done. They lied to their teeth in every possible place and way. New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, you name it, they lied. Made it all up. Same thing with Ukraine, impeachment, all of it. Totally made up. They just broadcast a bunch of lies. Now, we've got, they demand evidence. It's all over the place. There's smoking gun video of suitcases of ballots being dragged out from underneath tables after election monitors have been kicked out of the room. The amount of fraud that went on in Georgia, I've got half the stack here devoted to that, if I wanted to get into it all. Look, it brings up a point that I have been making for a long time on this program. Many, many moons. And the problem is that, I don't know what percentage, but it's close to 40% and maybe higher of the people of this country don't know it. And that is, there isn't any news anymore. Not what people think of as news. What do you think of as news? News is where somebody goes someplace where something happens, and they watch that thing happen, and then they tell other people who weren't there what happened. It's journalism. It's reporting things that most people didn't see. That doesn't happen anymore. That is not what's happening. Today we have left-wing activists disguised as journalists promoting the agenda of the Democrat Party. And it is made to look like news. And 40% of the American people who are clueless, because all they watch is mainstream media, believe that it's still news. They believe they are hearing the news. When they watch the lies and the distortions of the Russia hoax, the coup, they think it's news. And they think when it was over that there wasn't any evidence, that the Mueller investigation, well, nice try, but didn't find anything. They don't know it was a total hoax. They don't know it was all made up. The people that only watch mainstream media have no clue what it really was. So how do we deal with it? And when there's no news, then there really isn't, folks. There isn't any. This is why I call myself America's real anchorman. Because I do the news. I do endeavor to tell you what is happening out there. In addition, the added bonus for you is you also get my opinion. But I am more honest and forthright about things that are happening, people that are doing those things, parties that are doing those things, than anybody at the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, take your pick, CBS, ABC, NBC. I am more honest about the Democrat Party than they are about themselves. Because I need to be persuasive. And in order for me to be persuasive, you need to understand who the Democrats are. If I'm going to be here criticizing them and telling people to disavow them, I better tell you why. So I do. I engage in more real journalism and more news here than anybody in mainstream media today. And this has been the case since before Trump. It crystallized and intensified during Trump. But during the 8 years of George W. Bush, it was the same thing. You look at the way they covered the Iraq War and the War on Terror. There isn't any news. Not like people think there is news. Anyway, I got to take a brief break. We'll do that and be back and continue on the phones right after this.
This Christmas, give a gift that delivers truth, justice, and the American way all year long. Give the Limbaugh Letter, America's #1 political newsletter from America's #1 truth detector. Rush
And back to the phones we go quickly. San Marcos, California. This is Tom. I'm glad you waited, sir. Great to have you here. Hi.
Hi, Rush. It's a pleasure to talk with you. I just really have only one question, and it is, how much fraud does it take to overturn an election?